Hey, we're Augmenters. Yes, you too. And today we are here to talk about creating community and belonging through mentoring. I'm Julie.
And I'm Jimmy.
On today's show, we welcome Victor Saad, a true Augmenter, and we learned a ton about mentoring within entrepreneurship with a look towards education. I mean, Victor is such an education guru that he figured it out how to get paid to receive a master's degree.
And Julie, we learned this, and it's crazy, but he figured out how to make his diploma out of wood. I mean, a guru has diplomas made of wood.
So crazy. But he shared some awesome tips on pivoting when things aren't going according to plan and how to approach your stretch mentor. And I got some questions in there too about family and how they influence your past and present. We are excited for you to check it out. So here goes. Oh my gosh. Victor Saad, I'm so excited to have you on Augmenters today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
We've had a lot of jamming conversations over the years. We've met in bizarre times talking about bizarre things. And
it's true.
It's very true. And I have really been looking forward to this conversation because you have such a unique perspective on so many things, but I don't think we've ever really talked about mentoring. So now we get a chance to dive into your amazing design entrepreneurial brain and hear your thoughts on this important topic. But before we get started, we'd like to ask you a question.
Yeah, let's go.
I actually have a new question, Jimmy. I was thinking about it this morning. Are you excited?
Oh, wow. I don't know if I'm mentally ready for this.
Have you had enough coffee?
Prepare for change.
Okay. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, Victor. So people usually believe mentors are people always see mentors as somebody who said something really meaningful to them that they can never forget. That whenever they're going through a tough time and they have a moment, there's a phrase that a mentor has said to you that sticks with you and gets you through. This might be a mentor that you've met. This also might be a shadow mentor. What is one of the phrases that you go to when you feel like you need some inspiration?
I document a lot of these phrases throughout every year on my birthday. I write the number of lessons of the age that I was. So, 37 lessons from being 37 or whatever. So I do this every year. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so I have, for some reason, the first one that's coming to mind has nothing to do with design. It is just a life hack which is never skimp on anything between you and the ground. It's like tires, mattresses, shoes. Never skimp on those things.
Legs.
Take care of anything between you and the ground. And then there is a little bit of a business thing, which in my mind is what is the most important parts of your business or your life or your work. Invest in those. Like decide what the foundation is of your life and work, and anything between you and them, make sure it's great. So your health, like if you need to pay for the mentor or the personal trainer, don't skimp on your health and wellness. Like get the personal trainer or do whatever it takes for you to stay healthy. It's whatever. If your business is a B2B sales business and it's highly relational, don't skimp on the CRM stuff. I mean, don't overspend either, but spend the time, resources, energy, whatever, to build a really good system for managing your people and your relationships so that you don't lose them. But yeah, never skimp on anything between you and the ground.
I have not heard that. It's going to take me a little bit of time to think about what isn't between you and the ground, but I love that. And so these are was there like a specific mentor who shared that wisdom with you? Or was there somebody who actually did not prioritize what was between them and the ground and was a bit of an anti-mentor? And we'd love to hear a story about it.
I have one of those mentors who's just got a bunch of good one-liners. He's Scottish. So he's got this like, he's in his, I think he just turned 62. Gosh, I think that's right. And he's just so bright. He's the head of global operations for a $4 billion company. And he's just this quiet, you couldn't find him online kind of figure, but he's silver fox, super fit, wears, has a closet of all black Hugo Boss suits,
and phenomenal shoes, I expect.
Phenomenal shoes, the best winter tires for his BMW. But he's one of the most generous people I've ever met. He shares his home. He's always having people over. He mentors. He does a bunch of mentorship groups for people in his company. Everyone from like down on the line to all the way up to, college students who are, that he sees as potential for, leadership roles someday. It's wild when you look at his track record, how many of those people have landed in the roles he anticipated they would get into. But he's a charmer, and he's the right hand of the CEO. And he talks about, just like the way he wants to lead a company and be an example to like both like great leadership, but also taking care of yourself. And he's seen it all from that, from his position in the company. So he's got a bunch of one-liners, and they're all said in this awesome, like
Scottish accent. Do you have anything else for us? Accent. You got a couple other ones?
No, I don't know if I have a good one-liner right off the top of my head, but he does talk a lot about integrity. And he'll say that whenever he was applying for some of his biggest roles, his most important pivots in his career, the thing that he says what led to him getting the roles he got was talking about always aiming to do the right thing and to being a person of integrity. And, right thing and integrity is almost like a too small of a way to talk about integrity. Integrity is the integrity of an object or of a material is its ability to sort of withstand the pressure it's given because of its makeup, And so to be a person who's made up of the character or values that you say you have, and then to follow through on them when pressure is put on your life or circumstances are pressing up against that material, and for you to stay the course or for you to hold your line, that is integrity. And so, it's one thing to talk about it, but he's also got a great track record of that and has stories tied to that. And he and I talk often about those kind of forks in the road where things could be a little gray or things could be, and it's not even like moral or ethical things. It's just decisions on how you spend your time or who you spend your time on or with, and the
priorities. He sounds like I don't know him, but he sounds like somebody whose priorities are in the right place, or like he is mentoring you through identifying and like communicating his priorities in a way that helps you like live in integrity. And I don't think we've ever even thought of that before. I guess Jimmy, you've said, I don't know, I don't think you said it, but we can pretend like you said it because you said it to me, which was if you want somebody to know what you care about, look at your calendar, credit card statement. What was it?
Yeah.
Calendar, I think.
If you want to actually know what it was said by Peter Drucker, the founder of management consulting, where he said, you can tell me all day long what you care about, but just show me your bank statement, show me your calendar. I'll tell you what you care about.
Yeah. So maybe like really having those priorities in place is where you really show your integrity and like what you really care about, the way that you're acting.
Mattresses, tires, and shoes.
Mattresses, tires, and shoes.
Everyone's going to go shopping now.
I don't know.
I love it.
I'm just kidding.
And Victor, while you were talking, and this is like glib, but still, I never thought of it this way about like how you define integrity, is that you can't spell integrity without grit. Like you have to be ready to withstand pressure. That's a key to integrity.
It's what's funny is a lot of times the pressure isn't a big hit. It's just this small pressing, and that just gets more challenging or like more and more pressure along the way, or it might be a slight nudge. And we know, from the sailing course or for a summer with the Chicago Parks District and sailing on Lake Michigan, it's a total bear. So choppy, and there's no real like sort of science to the waves that, like there might be in the ocean. And anyway, even a degree or two off, and you're going to end up in a very different spot. And you're always trying to keep your bow, the bow of your boat pointed in within a couple degrees, or else you're going to, again, get to a very different place. So you're jibing and tacking and just trying to like get to this place. Same thing with pressure. Same thing with integrity. Like it's just a couple degrees off and you're ending up in a very different place than you ever wanted to be in. And so it's just that it's not a one-time thing. It's just this constant like, wait, am I getting pushed away from where I said I wanted to go or what I wanted to be,
Wow. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I was going to say, sounds like campaign donations in politics.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's like I could take on that donor, or yeah, I can make that promise. I think I can make that promise. It's not really what I want to do. I can make that promise though. I have to. That's the other thing is like, I have to.
30 promises later, there's literally a different makeup within, the jewel you've created.
Yeah.
This is all making me think too. All three of us are business owners and entrepreneurs and obviously idea generators. And I think one of the reasons why Jimmy and I really bonded with each other on this topic was that we didn't always have people to go to, right? You don't have the corporate mentor that HR has sent from above with a, glass of whiskey on a Friday afternoon behind the big desk, chatting with you about your dreams and hopes, et cetera, which is obviously not existent. But how do you know when you are a little bit off track, when the wind is kind of blowing, and like, how do you reach out for help? And how do you know who to reach out to? As imagining we're having listeners who are also in a similar position and are business owners and are kind of having that feeling that you're describing, which I totally know. You're like, am I sort of on track? Things are kind of like it feels that pressure. How do you know when you need to reach out, and how do you reach out?
I think it's really valuable to have some sort of self-awareness practice, whatever that looks like for you. If that's a, morning writing, quick journal, something where you just get a chance to pay attention to where you are in your life, in your work, in your world. And I think without that, it's really hard to know that. And honestly, a lot of times it comes too late. One of the things I find with mentors and I should preface this by saying I leaned in really heavily into mentorship in large part because my dad was a bit of a tougher character during my younger years. He actually had a really amazing turnaround later in his life, but some of that like younger year sort of thing just stuck with me, and I really wanted the approval of older men. Like I wanted it, just needed to fill that gap. And then he passed away. He and I ended on a really good note, but he passed away just a few years ago. So some of my younger years of pursuing mentorship had nothing to do about what you're saying about knowing when to go a different direction or whatever. It was just wanting approval about what I was doing. And I think you got to check yourself on that, because that is not mentorship, right? Like that is, I don't know what it is. It's more of trying to fill a hole or a gap. And I needed to do my own work before really like calling people mentors or seeking out mentorship. And now I think knowing myself better and doing some of that work around what was the remnants, and honestly just forgiving my dad's younger self and just saying like he was doing the best he could with what he had. Brené Brown's words there. Mm. And especially as an immigrant father who had a really tough father and was trying to raise 3 boys in this country, I can't imagine what he had to figure out. So now if I know if I'm doing the self work and I'm paying attention to, the kind of person I want to be, the kind of business leader I want to be in character, the kind of business I want to build in both health and direction, the kind of partner I want to be to Katie, or the kind of friend I want to be to new people like Jimmy here and older friends, like a little bit like Julian.
Easy.
Yeah. The kind of friend I want to be. Sorry.
Going through the screen.
Yeah. I'm just saying a little older as in like time together, not in age. Don't worry.
Long
but when I start putting that together and I see glimpses of that, then when I'm going to mentors, it's like, hey, there's a business direction that's been put in front of me and I'm not sure about it. What do I do? Or I'm writing, there's this theme showing up. And when I check in with myself that I'm exhausted or I'm scared a lot. What do you do when you're scared a lot about like the future of your work or the future of an industry or like COVID or like, what did you do? When was the last time you were scared? I mean, David Kelly, I get a chance to work closely with David Kelly from IDEO, and he founded the Stanford D School. He and I built a course together there. And when COVID hit, I called David and just asked, like, what did you do in 2008? And David walked me through step by step. What did his leadership do? What did he do? How did they steer through it? And he just talked about that downturn and other downturns. And I took almost all those steps and applied them. And it was awesome. And we made it through. And Dave, I mean, I will never forget that. David also, by the way, walked me through my dad's diagnosis of pancreatic cancer and and was the one who said his biggest piece of advice. Here's a one-liner is, you'll never spend too much time with your dad at this point. There's no such thing. It's like, okay, all right, I'll get there. So now I think mentorship, I go to mentors when you have to check in with yourself, and you have to notice when there's like real pressure or something is starting to seem amiss or afoot. I think there's regular mentors too, like they're not regular, just people like you're just kind of more in conversation with. It's harder these days, I notice, especially when you're busy. I have another person I can speak about, but I'm talking a lot, so I'll just pause for a second.
Oh no, keep on dropping dimes. How did you realize at what point David Kelly was a mentor to you?
I mean, first of all, he's like kind of a mentor to everybody at Stanford. I mean, he's kind of got that at some point gray hairs and lots of experience, and that's just what people call you, you know.
Yeah. And he's super well known. I mean, he's like the one other school I've ever wanted to go to is to learn under him. So yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he really is. What's funny is he's one of those guys that everyone probably calls their mentor. You know, it's not like he's just taken Victor under his wing. It's like I think he's been very generous with me, and I was just at his house actually on Monday because it just happens that every time at the end of the quarter, right around my dad's passing, Dad passed on December 6th, David just happens to be free, and we just happen to grab a like literally 5 years in a row. It's wild. So I know he's been a little extra generous, but he's also just like, he is that way. And I know there's a bunch of stuff happening at IDEO and, you know, whatever stuff has happened over the years, but you look at the way he gives his time, or he tries to help students flourish, and he just wants to help people do their thing, like, and flourish. And I think that's when, you know, you have a good, there's that someone's a mentor is because they're thinking about you more than they're thinking about themselves in any given moment. And I have the good fortune of having a lot of those kinds of people in my life, but it is hard, you know, and people are busy. They've got kids and they've got businesses. They've got their own shit that they're trying to deal with. You want me to sit across from you and think about your challenges for an hour or two or multiple hours over the course of multiple days? Like, right? Like, I don't blame anyone for saying I can't do that. But for the ones who open up like that, it's just, man, it's so special. And I think that's what makes a good mentor is when they're.
I love that quote. A good mentor is someone that's thinking more about you than thinking about themselves. It's such a good litmus test for mentors to kind of simplify it. Did you have in your like master's degree? I still can't tell if you gave yourself a master's degree or if you got it from somewhere. But
here's my diploma. I know it's not on a podcast, but I had someone actually build a diploma for me. This is by Matthew Hoffman. And then it says, we family, friends, mentors, and colleagues hereby grant Victor Saad the celebratory diploma in honor of completing 12 experiences in 12 months in social enterprise. By common bond, we hereunder place our names on this 23rd day of February 2013.
What?
Oh, wow. Signed. It's a beautiful
Wow. Okay.
That's cool.
Also a business to make diplomas for people that look like that. We'll just keep that between us. Okay.
Yeah.
We can sell them in
Bad
our
radio, great for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Did you have where did you first get that idea? Like I know you're quite creative, but I still don't. I bet it didn't suddenly hit you one day while you were walking. Like where did some of the genesis come from, and was there a mentor involved that kind of started dropping little pieces for you to pick up along a path?
Yeah. Okay. So remember, I sought out a lot of help. I just was not bashful. Now, part of the reason why I think people were keen to spend time with me is I took advice. Like I would take it and I'd run with it. I wouldn't just be like, oh, that was really nice. I'd write a thank you note afterwards. Here's what I learned. I still do this to this day, by the way.
You're really good about that.
I learned from our conversation. Huh?
You're really good about that. Like you're really good about staying in touch.
Yeah. And then I would follow up and share what I'm doing. And then I would go do interesting things, and then they would feel ownership in it. Right. So I was doing this in my prior, my prior life was working with middle school and high school students. And then I started spending time in social enterprise, and the 2008 to 2012, like from the sort of recession, the 2008 crisis, and then financial crisis, and then all the way to 2012, there was so much entrepreneurship happening. A lot of people resetting on what they believed in, wanting to build value, not just to do well, but to do good in the world. There's a lot of that happening, and so things like Charity Water and an organization called Nuru, or there was this thing called Invisible Children, which kind of blew up in some ways, but whatever. I just started hearing about all this stuff. And there was a guy named, Charles. I'm forgetting Charles's last name, but he started a conference called Ideation, which was a social enterprise conference. So all of that was happening. And I started talking to people about what I should do to get more involved. And people were talking about really interesting programs, MBA programs, so on. And there was one at Northwestern, and it was like, okay, cool. I will go get another degree and I will focus on social enterprise. Duh, that's what you do. But enough of those, there was a couple of people who just kind of pushed on it a little bit. One guy named Seth Kravitz, he was kind of at the time I would call him the red hot center of Chicago's entrepreneurship scene. He was like the guy, and he's since moved on from that, but he was just such a great character. Buddy that I was talking about, I point that way because he's in Wisconsin, the older fellow that we started with. And then my best friend Tyler and a couple others were just like, is an MBA the right thing? And we started looking at the cost, and then, my best friend tweets me and says, hey, like 2012 is a leap year. You could do something with that. And Seth is like, what if you did a series of disparate projects tied to what you care about, and so on, right? So it starts unfolding just really natural, just by talking to people. And again, this is how I think a lot of mentorship happens. It's not like you go talk to someone and it's poof, here's your perfect plan. I think it starts with that self-awareness. I know I need to do something new. Or like, I want to grow in this specific area, social enterprise. And you start having conversations with people who will give you the time of day, 30 minutes here, an hour there, a coffee chat, or at the time Skype call, whatever. And then over time, you're just like, oh my gosh, I think I can do this. Like, I think I can make my own masters. I think I can create a little bit of my own curriculum. I can find projects, and I could probably turn it into some sort of external thing too, so that people feel like they can invest in it. $10 a month for a year. That's like a newsletter subscription. I can downsize a bunch, like get rid of rent and just like have a car and a roller bag, or like stay at a friend's house when I'm in Chicago. Like, I'm 25. I can do this,
Hold on. Did you just say that you got paid for your own master's degree? You figured out how to monetize a little bit your own learning?
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
Victor?
200 or so. It took a lot of conversations with people, but a couple hundred people gave me $10 a month. So that's like kind of base. Yeah. And a couple people, they like had companies and they sponsored it, and then when I worked at companies for a month, some of them said, hey, we can't have you work for free. So here's $1,500 or $2,000 for the month or whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I was hustling. I mean, I learned about dumpster diving that year. So that's a part of the story I don't talk about. Yeah. I learned how much food waste is behind a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's in Boulder, Colorado. Like, again, things I don't necessarily talk about too often, but
the Dunkin' Donuts drop at 9 p.m. All the old donuts and bagels out the back. Hello.
I had that I didn't hit that one. And look, so I mean, I made it work. That's the point. And looking back, I probably would have even tried to make it a little bit easier on myself. But I was just, I just have always made things work.
That's such a fascinating idea. Why didn't you just start a graduate school?
I did. Experience Institute's first pass at building a business was an alternative to grad school that was called, and we had a fellowship essentially. And it was just, all I did was this one program. And instead of 12 experiences in 12 months, it was 3 apprenticeships in a year. And you started in Chicago in September. So you went from September, 2 weeks in Chicago. I would build a team of instructors. And I'd essentially run the log line was Harvard meets The Amazing Race. So the Harvard portion was 2 weeks in Chicago. And then the fall, you would travel to a company that we either connected you to, maybe you found, and you'd work for 3 months. Maybe you'd work on your own ideas or projects too, and you'd stay connected with the group. Come back in January, 2 more weeks. work with a nonprofit for a couple of days on a design thinking sprint. You do, go visit this office space for a day of lectures. At the end, we might all teach one another something. I mean, I had all this curriculum, I was basically a camp counselor, but instead of at camp, we were all over Chicago. Then you'd go to your spring experience, come back in May, and we would go to a lake house in Michigan and start off there. And then a couple, week and a half more in Chicago.
Did you sail there?
One more. Huh?
Did you sail there?
No, I didn't. No, I did not there. And then June, you would do one more. And then in August, you'd come back for 2 weeks, put your story together, your website, your LinkedIn, your resume, your video, like graduation piece. And we'd host a massive graduation. And at that graduation was the starting class of the next cohort. And the magic would start over. I did that for 4 years straight. It's wild. I mean, it was just the students were the best. They were the most interesting people. You're having a kid who was like kind of stuck between architecture and music. She was a potential grad student. She's brilliant. Stuck between like architecture and music. There's no grad program for that, or not at the time. Like, come design your own, or kid who was like, okay, sustainable farming and, entrepreneurship. It's like, you have a 19-year-old, whose dad was an incredible businessman and, doesn't necessarily want to go to college at all. Like, we let him in. Like, what do you want to do for a year? And he killed it. You have another guy who's like social psych, marketing, just trying to find himself a little bit. It's 27, first job didn't work out. He doesn't want to spend $100,000 on a random program. Like, wants to try things, want to go meet people, want to go in the office or on in the field somewhere. Those are the kind of people we had come. It was awesome.
I mean,
I feel
like the State Department and the Department of Ed is like waiting to give you a 10-figure contract.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. And I say this with like some, I don't know. I mean, so if you're on a podcast right now, you're probably, you don't see the furrowed brow or the pause, but I just couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out how to not charge students a lot of money to pay everything, to cover all the costs. And I say this, I'm saying this so slowly because I'm also just like a little sad about it, like I was 26, 27. I got Forbes 30 under 30. Everybody thought I was like going to be the Steve Jobs or the Mark Zuckerberg of education. And I was naturally doing something, like genuinely doing something amazing. We were, it was like an amazing group of people, but I couldn't figure out how not to charge students a lot of money or charge companies a lot of money. And then the company piece, I figured out a little bit, but then eventually it was like, well, if they're not hiring or, like the infrastructure needed. So it was just challenging to figure that out. And when I look at higher ed too, it's not a place that's really ripe for innovation. I mean, it's ripe for innovation, but it's not, it just moves so
ready
slowly.
For innovation.
Yeah. And so what I ended up realizing was like what I figured out with David, right? Which was, let's see what we can do from the inside. Okay. So he and I have done a number of projects, don't want to go into it, but this class that I built there is kind of is my ongoing sort of poking at higher ed, which is starting with, let's rethink the summers. How do you help students go beyond just traditional internships to think about what they might design in the summer? And then that playbook, the curriculum to get students to think that way, and then the relationships that needed to, like in the business relationships, how do we apply that to a quarter, to a year, to a couple of, it's like now we can start maybe unraveling it. So I am on this like however many year journey. It's a smaller part of my life today, but just trying to work with the folks at Stanford to create that playbook. So David Kelly, Bill Burnett from Designing Your Life, the D-School team who are just fantastic. And then the students who've given me a shot for, the past 5 years to come to my independent study, which is just this year flipped from an independent study to a required class in the new design called Design Formation. And so every junior in the new design degree that the D-School created will go through Design Formation to really wrestle with who they want to be in the world, how they tell that story, and then how to design a summer in a way that you would be proud of, right? Like a series of projects and experiences. And all of that is just a template for something we could do, again, over the course of a quarter or a year or, as a larger play.
Victor, I now know one of the 5 things why Julie wanted to introduce us, because I am pushing forward in year 2, though I'm still calling it, year like -1 almost, of an apprentice program at Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy. And I'm also trying to rethink how internships can be expanded and changed in a major way. So you've given me an idea or two. We should totally jam. We had 2 students successfully go through last year. And I love your kind of almost like throwaway line, which was like, oh yeah, the graduation is the matriculation for the next group. I'm like all about cohort building, community building, through that. And that was, you said it so casually, and I'm like, no, that's fucking brilliant. Like, how does that not happen now with most graduate programs? I know, again, they get delayed and all that other shit, but like, it's really, I love it. And I actually think that the undergrad piece is, beyond me. Like, I can't even think that part seems too hard, but the graduate school piece, I feel like people are ready to adjust. And I think primarily because, we'll have to ask all our higher ed friends to, put on earmuffs, but primarily because there's less incumbent power in the graduate degrees because there's less tenure. And when we remove that, there's less people freaked out about their fiefdoms. Again, it doesn't pay to show up and do this for us, but it is so much fun. The students are so phenomenal. And as long as you show a little bit of like getting shit done in a short amount of time, like Tufts has given me a lot of leeway to just be like, okay, Jimmy,
that's awesome.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think what you're doing is exactly right, Jimmy. It's not these kinds of systems aren't going to crumble overnight. They're not going to change overnight. Okay. I mean, we're talking about, I think it's public higher education is the 4th largest industry. Like we're talking like up there with healthcare, oil and gas. Like it is not going to just overnight change. So what we're going to need to do is start poking, not holes, but maybe just start creating other forms within the system. Look, there are other folks who are trying bigger things. I mean, even Minerva Project that everyone's like, oh, that's the future of education. They came back to do traditional stuff. I mean, it's interesting, but they had to come back into the system. Multiverse, which is trying to be like the apprenticeship model. They started in the UK, Tony Blair's son. They're over here now trying to do the same thing, but they're going to end up, it's going to be a B2B play. Like that's how they're going to have to make it work. And then those corporate partnerships are going to entice universities to partner with them, over time.
That's what we call the apprentice program. Entrepreneurship. Nutrition.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. There you go.
Weird.
So corporate, business and higher education relationships will help to really change the game, I think, and really woo business or higher education institutions to think differently. This is what we did with Penn and Berkeley as well. We did experience labs, which were like the 5th year essentially or like that right after college, 6-month apprenticeship, and tons of community and support.
Thank you for mentoring me on the pod. I appreciate it. You're going to be on my shoulder whispering to me, even when you're not around now, Victor. Be careful.
Yeah.
I have a real specific question. I know Julie's got others, but you use the term both mentorship and apprenticeship. Something that AugMentors does, we often try to say mentoring. I often try to say apprentices for a variety of reasons. I think language, culture, et cetera. But I have my own reasons behind why I do that. I'm really curious why you leave the ship in. We've only asked this question a couple times and gotten awesome answers. Yeah. So you're on the spot. I'm curious. Why do you use those words?
Well, I do think all good stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Maybe not always in that order, but I think that's a Kurt Vonnegut quote. But I do part of growth is that at some point you end things.
Oh.
You shed things, you stop things. And not that you ever stop being mentored, but there is ship has this, it's more of the apprenticeship has there's going to be some wrap up to this and you're going to go on to this next phase. Even with a lot of my mentors today, as I get older, we're just friends, and
evolution, and you mentor them. You mentor them, probably.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think so. I mean, I still am growing up a bit. I'm getting close to 40, and I still feel sometimes like I'm the 25-year-old that's trouncing around the globe. But it's not true. I mean, I'm now coaching executives and building programs for Fortune 10 companies, that are helping their people be more innovative and work better together. And so, yeah, when I sit across from a lot of these people, it's not mentoring necessarily. It's just a good relationship. It's a good relationing. I don't know. So I think it's important for people to know that there are cycles to things, I think, and you will be the mentor at some point. But if I'm being completely open with you, I don't know if I thought about it that intentionally until this moment. I think your version of, you were probably more intentional around choosing mentoring and apprenticing than I was about mentorship and apprenticeship.
One angle that we received from somebody who thought about this a lot was the ship means it's a commitment. So I love that, adding on your piece where it's a commitment, but commitments, we like to say infinite things, but they usually have a schedule associated with them, and completing that schedule is growth. So
well, and also I think endings we're so good at starting things or thinking about what we want to start. We're not great at thinking about what we want to end or how to end things,
You mean my wife loves when I say all the time, hey, before we start this agreement, let's plan this before we enter into something.
Okay. No, but I will say I'm working on my will and sort of, or estate plan. And at 40, right? Because I know at some point, Katie, probably she's going to outlive me. I hope. I mean, but I'm just we might not get divorced, but I need to think about how I'm going to end. And I want to make sure that my family and Katie has no probate. Everything's easy. It's like they get what they need and we're good to go.
I love that. Live in the moment. Be here now.
Plan for the end, but live in the moment.
Plan for the end. I love that, Victor. And I wanted to say earlier, I am curious if you wish you had $1 for every time somebody told you you're ahead of your time, because everything that you've talked about related to education and all of that, this is all what is going to happen, and it's just isn't ready yet. So if you hear that a lot.
Too smart, Victor. Too smart.
No, it's not about smart. It's just what's happening is the problems are getting more potent, but the systems can't shift enough. Yeah. The pace of change is outpacing the systems we've built.
Yes.
And on a human level, all of us can adapt faster than the larger system. Yeah. So what I did isn't that different than what a lot of people have been doing the past few years, like the Great Resignation and all of the shifting that's happened in the workplace. It's just people who just did their own version of a leap. Yeah. Or a leap year, or when someone at work says I'm going to take on this project or this thing I don't need an institution. I don't even need a boss to tell me what to do. I think I need to build this. They are doing it. It just doesn't have a formal structure or the same sort of ritual and tradition around it. And we don't know what to do with some of those people. I mean, LinkedIn has finally added, the opportunity or the option to say career break as a thing. And I think more and more people are saying that is cool. When you do that, it is not a gap in your resume. It is a thoughtful thing for you to do that. And when you come here next, if you're applying here, you're probably going to come here refreshed. You're probably going to come here more ready to do great work. Yeah. So awesome. Yeah. It's not about being smart. I think everybody's trying to figure out how to adapt, and because institutions just can't do it quite fast enough. Yeah. There are people doing it, like Jimmy. What you're doing is you are doing that for Tufts. Yeah. Anyway, so
now I'm trying to add. I can only do open to work or hiring. I was hoping for mental break instead of career. So you must have a different level of LinkedIn than me.
I've seen it more than I haven't practiced it yet.
No, you have not practiced it yet.
When I've done the project, I think it's under experiences, maybe not. If you were to do updated, what you're working on now or your career sort of flow, I think you could do it. I just saw it recently.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a big deal.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm cracking me up thinking about people adding you can put anything you want before break, and you could be right around your picture.
That's funny.
Before we fully wrap up, I have a couple rapid fire questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Ask you. I'm going to end with 4 words. My verbal Rorschach test. Just tell me what comes to your mind. But first, I want to ask you, do you have like a symbol or like a token or a talisman or something, given your, skill in design thinking, but some way to create comfort and relaxation in a room between people? Maybe it's on Zoom. I use the metaphor of like a book in book club where, people come together because of this book. And supposedly you're going to chat about the book when everybody gets together. But my mom just tells me how she drank a bottle of wine and had the best time talking to her friends and didn't talk about the book. But the book is what brought everybody together. It unlocked the room. Do you have any tricks that you use like that in any situations with people?
I mean, I'm going to keep leaning on leaps. I think the idea of when I bring people to the room, we'll often talk about how the most important 2 lines you'll ever draw are 2 vertical lines, just about an inch or 2 apart. And on the left side of the left line is where you are today. And on the right side of the right line is where you want to be someday. Everybody has these 2 lines in their life, where you are and where you want to be. And we can have a great discussion about that today and on this call. Like if you're trying to grow as a manager, trying to grow as an innovator or a storyteller, whatever it might be, we're going to work on getting you from here to there a little bit closer. And the thing in the middle is going to be at some point, you're going to take on a project. You're going to do something that is uncomfortable. You're going to try something. You're going to go talk to someone. You're going to build something. You're going to make something. That's going to be your leap. I don't know what that is yet, but that's going to be your leap. And it just kind of brings us all together in the room. And we have some vocabulary for it. Next year is a leap year, by the way, 2024. Yes. So yeah, so we're talking about that a lot. So I don't know if it's a thing. I mean, I have a lot of leap. I mean, you saw my graduation thing. I have a take the leap sticker that's on my computer. I can't show it to you, but
do you have some posters of Michael Jordan in the background?
No, I don't, though. I did a lot of leaping photos. I think it's funny. I don't even have a copy, but my cover of my book is me jumping that desk actually in the nearby. So
I love it. I was going to say, to the left of my line is not able to dunk. To the right of my line is dunk, and I'll have to leave to get there.
Yeah. So you've got to do a bunch of calf workouts, and
but just be careful of what's between you and the floor, Jimmy. You can't fall. Exactly. I need you.
Wear some good shoes, Jimmy.
Yeah, I got to take care of those strength soles.
Yeah.
So my rapid fire words will come quick. I'd love to hear what comes to your mind right away when I say the word mentor.
Friendship.
How about mentee?
Youth.
And sponsor?
Care.
How about coach?
Consistent.
All right. That was awesome. I'm interested. I don't think we've had friendship before for mentor.
No, but yeah, obviously.
You're like already at the evolution.
Yeah.
Victor, honestly, thank you so much.
Julie, it was a treat to talk to Victor. You've been extolling his virtues to me for, I want to say years, but it might have just been teenage months. I'm not sure.
Somewhere in between.
I have to say, this was an interesting interview for me, interview, show, you name it, because Victor was so nice to just deal with all of our questions because he's just so sharp. But we talked to Victor right before the holidays, and now we're doing our intro, outro after the holidays, as we often do. And can you guess the quote of Victor's that was stuck in my head? It's really a quote of a quote.
What is it?
It is what David Kelly, the founder of IDEO, told Victor after he found out that his dad was really sick with a terminal diagnosis. And David Kelly told Victor, "You will never spend too much time with your dad now." And as I was walking around over the, you name it, number of days around the holidays, I was looking at people that I care about in my life and thinking about that quote. And it was interesting that at some point, supposedly, there is a switch that says now you cannot spend too much time with that person.
Interesting.
And I was trying to evaluate it as only an engineer can do, trying to put very basic math behind, okay, does, not quite this gruesome, but does mom really need to fall and break her hip for it to be okay, now it's the time, or, does the dog need to run to the wall one more time for me to be yeah, we probably need a good hug for a while. I don't know. But that quote really stuck with me as an interesting switch. And I thought it had something to do, although it was just like how, evolutions in relationships come together, because it's not always that clear when you are in a relationship with somebody that all of a sudden, oh yeah, now's the time. And it's also like there's so many other factors in this. Well, like, why are you working when there's a terminal illness, or like, can you stop exercising for a month? Like, well, whatever it is. I don't know. Did that quote at all come back to you over the last 2 weeks?
Yeah. I mean, it was a really great quote to hear before the holidays, to your point. And also, I think as you're thinking about the new year and thinking about how you're going to approach the things that are important to you. And I think mentors do a great job of helping you really think through like what is really important to you and what do you want to prioritize as you make your goals and you make your resolutions and you make your lists. Of course, there's work and of course, there's other things, but is prioritizing the people that you really care about top of that list. So I love hearing that for you. And I love that that was something that resonated for you.
So as you continue to be a mentor of mine, Julie, I think you just helped me see something in your mentoring role with many roles you have in our evolutions here. The mentor, David Kelly, was able to really provide some clarity to Victor in a moment where there was a lack of clarity and a lot of emotion and, not really able to be able to know what to do next. And the beauty of a mentor is somebody that knows enough about all sides of you, not just family who knows about you during family time, not just a friend who knows you socially, but someone who really can kind of like see a lot of sides of you, or not necessarily the full context, but can see all the sides and can cut to the chase, which is, hey, now's the time. I can flip the switch for you because you're not going to be able to see through the weeds. You're too close.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I could definitely see that. And I could definitely see where Victor came with that. I feel like what I really got from Victor is just the pivoting and like the different people in his life that have supported him as he has figured out like where is he supposed to go with this brilliance that he has and the way he wants to express community. And he's tried a lot of different ways and it continues to evolve. And I think there's a lot of humility in that. And I really appreciate that. So I feel like I definitely got some of that element of just wanting to be present at the moment he's supposed to be present, but also how do you keep pivoting? How do you keep asking for help? How do you keep finding the right people to support you on your journey? And I definitely got that from Victor. Which
leads me exactly to the takeaway I had from Victor about how to connect better with others and form community, which was his line about disposable items are killing us. And that I found it really amazing of Victor that he is open to continuing to change, meaning I'm going to try this and it's not going to be bad for you, but you should try it too. And it might be exactly what you need, but it's going to be better than not doing anything. And I kind of saw that as well within these relationships that people are forming through mentoring, that it's not going to be bad for you. It might not be exactly what you need, but it's definitely going to help you provide some greater context and likely also help the other person that you're involved in this relationship. And knowing that items are disposable because they are literally like a tangible thing that can be thrown in the trash, but a relationship can always stay with you in some way. You can remember that person, remember what you learned. And I thought that Victor kind of said a larger point to me about maybe call it like the ephemeral world, about like once you interact with somebody in a mentoring relationship, it could still stay with them, usually in a good way, for a very long time.
And I think that's probably what a lot of us are thinking about after the holidays, right? We got gifts and we got like presents and we got stuff and now we don't even know what to do with the stuff.
You got gifts? I wish I got one of those.
I mean, I got you a scratch card. I didn't see anything coming for me, by the way.
Oh, shit.
I mean, you could have won $20,000. Who knows? But, like gifts, we all have like stuff, but nobody actually like really needs that much more stuff. You probably need closer relationships and people that you really care about. That's kind of what really matters.
You mean that new fleece Q-zip that my mom's wearing that looks like a shaggy dog bathed in white says HubSpot Creator Network on it?
I mean, there are cats and moms who are really into that kind of stuff. But overall, it's really about the people in your life. That's what really matters. Mm-hmm. So I think more and more that is becoming more and more evident. And that's why what we talk about here at AugMentors really matters.
Amen to that. So, Julie, here's to 2024. Victor Saad, first pod on the year.
I am excited. This was definitely the best pod to start the year off with. And I am very excited to keep track of Victor and where he is up to and where he goes from here.
Augmenters out.
Augmenters out. Wow, you've made it this far, and we thank you. Hopefully you enjoyed our episode and discovered new ways to bring more authentic connection into your mentoring relationships. Want to tell them more, Jimmy?
Be an Augmenter with us. Visit our website for the best interactive mentoring content at augmentors.us. Share our podcast with someone you care about. Like and subscribe. And yes, really, you following our show and writing a review, it's a big deal. Your actions provide us with the resources to continue our undefeated, unencumbered, prize-winning productions. We welcome questions and suggestions via email hi@augmentors.us or on social with our handle @AugmentorsHQ. We are most active and available on LinkedIn and YouTube. Shout out and earnest thank you to our intrepid producer, Erlen Cato. We appreciate you. Augmenters out.
See ya.